This show is brought to you by our partners at talkSPORT Bet. New customers get an exclusive offer of £40 in free bets when you bet £10. Go to talksportbet.com/inside the Toon to claim this offer now. Hello and welcome to Inside the Toon, where we take a deep dive into all things Newcastle United. I'm joined by Head of Sport at The Sun, Shaun Custis, and journalist and Newcastle fan, Jack Cunningham. Gentlemen, last week we launched the first show. It was all looking amazing, quarterfinals of the Cup, and then Newcastle decide to put in two of the worst league performances under Eddie Howe. I mean, let's start with Brentford, Jack. What went wrong for you in that performance?
I think, first of all, we're going to be the first inside show to be in the Championship, aren't we? 2.2 in the relegation zone.
They need to make an Inside Wolves, I think.
Yeah. Brentford, West Ham, genuinely two just horrific performances. I mean, we talk about like what Newcastle have been like and what they've been identified about the intensity on off the ball. It's just none of that in either game. Felt like, you know, you score first in both matches, especially against West Ham. I think Jared Bowen had hit the post initially, and then Murphy scores immediately after. You're like, all right, that's going to knock the stuffing out of them. And then, I don't really know what happened. It was just sort of kind of deflated, and it did definitely turn into probably one of the worst performances under Eddie Howe, arguably the worst, I think. And then, you know, they talk about reaction and stuff, and beat Bilbao in the Champions League, fine, great. And then you go to Brentford, who've had a decent-ish start under Keith Andrews, you know, won at home to Liverpool and Manchester United, so it was never going to be easy at the G-Tech. First half was a bit of nothing, but one bit of quality from Harvey Barnes, and you're like, all right, maybe we're on the way here. And then second half, just totally just didn't come out for the second half. And it felt as if, certainly the Burn decision to leave Burn on, when he got his yellow card and then give away the initial penalty that got ruled out as a dive, you're like pleading, begging, you're like, Eddie, take him off. Please take him off. You could see what was going to happen. And Brentford just kept playing the ball in behind. And eventually, you know, he brings down Dango Ouattara. I'm not even sure the second one was a foul, but to be honest, it balanced out because the first one probably shouldn't be given as a penalty. And then he's off. They get the penalty. They score. It's 2-1. And it's too late. Newcastle throw men on the fields. And in the end, it was just a bit desperate. And, you know, they go over at the end, they clap the away fans who made the long journey down, and it just wasn't good enough.
Yeah, Shaun, it's a 9th straight league defeat away from home. And that away form, particularly, is really concerning and actually stretches back before this season as well.
Yeah, it's dreadful. And as you say, in the last podcast we did, we were so upbeat, but it had been off the back of three home victories. And me and Jack have been talking about looking for positives. So this is the positive. This is the we got battered by Brentford nearly about this time last season and went on a great run after it. And it was actually at that Brentford game where Eddie Howe said, look, you won't believe me, but I can see there are green shoots. I can see that we're going to progress from here. And believe me, the performances will get better. The worry is this time we didn't get any of that. So after West Ham, he did something which I thought was a bit uncharacteristic, and he called out the players for weak mentality, didn't compete hard enough, and he sort of backed that up again after the Brentford game, although this time he said, I take the blame, it's up to me to sort it out. But there were no sort of anything we could grab onto to say, this is going to be better when we face, was it Man City?
Man City, yeah.
I mean, goodness me. And I know everybody's got fixated on the Derby game. They have, and I know you two are as well. we've got Man City, we've got Everton before that as well.
Yeah.
And it's Tottenham in the Cup. There's a lot to go before you get to the Derby. Can we solve it now before we get there so we're in good form going into playing Sunderland? But I think it is fairly concerning at the moment, I've got to say.
Yeah, and actually, it's funny because after that Brentford game, there was a bit of a tactical reset from how he moved Tonali a bit deeper into that 6th position. But there are so many things he needs to sort out. Yeah, 9 in a row. Yeah. But then you think, where's that tactical reset coming from? Is it Yohan Wissa finally becoming fit, giving him a different option? I think definitely the fullbacks coming back is going to be really important. But actually, I do think Howe needs to look at himself a bit tactically as well. In both the West Ham and the Brentford games, the midfield was bypassed so easily. And part of that was to do with the way Newcastle set up off the ball. They were a 4-5-1, and it only took one pass. And even against Brighton, it was the same kind of story. It sometimes only took one pass, especially against Brentford, like you say, that Jack Dan Burn was so easily targeted as well. And I think the other thing that's affecting Newcastle at the moment is pressing, because we know under Eddie Howe they're such a high pressing team. They can't press in the same way at the moment. But the other thing is there's that tactical shift within the Premier League that especially teams like Brentford have decided, right, we're going to punt this long. And so where it's worked for Newcastle away from home before, where they force teams into mistakes, now teams are going, well, we're just going to get past your press by pumping the ball up the pitch, maybe targeting Dan Burn and scoring that way.
You think that pumping it long and high would suit Dan Burn? He gets in there, big lad, head it clear, but they're not. They're dropping it.
They're dropping it behind him.
over his head, and they're taking him on. And it comes at a weird time for Burn, doesn't it? Because he's in the England squad. He's in this England squad. He's consistently been in the England squad. He's in the Newcastle team, yet both England fans and Newcastle fans think it might be time he got replaced.
Yeah.
Do you feel a bit sorry for Dan Burn, Jack, at the moment? Just because, obviously, left-back's not... I know he's played there a lot for Newcastle, but it's not his position.
No, I mean, if you think about how many games we played between this and the last international break and then this international break, it was basically every 3 days we were playing. And I actually thought Dan Burn at left-back did really well up until probably West Ham. I thought at left-back he was actually really solid in that position. I think a lot of it came down to ultimately playing all those games all the time. I think it got to him legs-wise. I think he started looking leggy. And ultimately, it's just not his position. You know, his position is at centre-back. And I think that, unfortunately, he became a player who other teams targeted, rightfully so, because he's not a left-back, so they started playing it over the top, and he was getting caught out. Now, my thing is that now he's banned for the game against Manchester City. This is finally the chance to get Lewis Hall back into the team. And Hall, in his little cameos so far since coming back from injury, has been absolutely incredible. I thought against Bilbao when he came on, he's probably the best player on the pitch. Like, he was sensational. The way he changed the way Newcastle played from the left-hand side was another level. And then even when he came against Brentford, he put in an unbelievable cross at 2-1 that Rico Henry cuts out. Otherwise, Willock or Elanga that make it 2-2. So I think once Hall comes into the team, you're going to see a better Newcastle. Because I think one of the issues we've got from away from home is if you actually look, Newcastle have been outworked in 8 of their 11 Premier League games this season, which is a surprise. But I think it's because it's like we talked about in the last episode, where it's a clear change in style. And the issue that Howe's got at the moment is he's trying to change the style, but he's keeping the loyalty to the players who are used to that high pressing intensity, not as technical game. So your Popes, your Joe Lintons, your Burns, he's keeping the loyalty with them because they've never let him down. But if you're trying to change the style and the way you play, you need to get the Lewis Hall in, you need to get Jacob Ramsey in, and you need to get Aaron Ramsdale in.
How do you get Burn into the team? You say he's not a left back, he's a centre back. This comes back to what I said the last time, which is when everybody's fit, he's probably not in the team.
He's probably not.
Shaun Botman's probably...
Chow and Botman, yeah. Chow and Botman.
Is probably a preferred centre back. And then is it Shaun Botman after that?
Well, I think, to be honest, I think Botman actually would be the one who might be in trouble, because I thought his performances against West Ham and Brentford were well below the levels that we expect of him. So I think Burn would still have a chance there. But equally, you probably are right. The favoured back foot on paper is Tino Livramento, Malik Chow, Sven Botman, Lewis.
It's interesting, though, you brought up that you felt that Newcastle had been outworked in 8 of the 11 games. I think you mentioned in the Premier League. But I spoke to Eddie Howe after the game and I asked him about the fixture scheduling and whether it had caught up with his team.
Can't use that as an excuse. Don't get me wrong, there will be, of course, that will be a factor, I'm sure, in how the players feel and the energy levels and the mental freshness we have in the group. But there's no way an excuse. That's what we want to be. The schedule is relentless. We've got a few injuries as well, and I think that's impacted our ability to maybe rotate as much as we wanted to. So that's why I say there's more than one reason.
Just how concerned are you at the moment, not just with that away form, but the current position in the league at the moment, sitting in 14?
Yeah, we are concerned. We're not happy where we are. There's a frustration and lots of negative emotions associated with it, anger, etc. But we're the only ones that can change it. So we've got to use that and harness it in the right way. Make sure that we work smart in the next 2 weeks. And as I say, make sure we're unified. That's the most important thing.
So Eddie Howe saying that you can't use it as an excuse, gents, but he only made one change for that game. Are we actually still seeing a Newcastle side, despite the investment in the summer, that he's struggling to maintain its performance levels because they're in other competitions?
No, because in the last podcast, we said the difference now is we've got strength in depth.
Yeah.
And I said that we didn't make many changes and got battered for it because we actually made 8. But the point was, he didn't notice it felt like a first team. So I actually think we've got good strength in depth. And I think he's right. You can't make fixture scheduling an excuse because he has the players to work. And we'll probably get onto this a bit more later. Even in the goalkeeping department, he's got 2 England goalkeepers for a start off. He's got 2 players for most positions. Yeah. He's got plenty of wingers, for instance. I look at Newcastle now and we talk about it and we go, well, defence is pretty good. Oh, we've got the best midfield in the country. One of the best midfields in the country. We've got a great new striker who, in the last show, Adam said was an upgrade.
Yeah.
We've got loads of wingers. Anthony Gordon. Oh, suddenly we've decided he's not performing so well when 2 weeks ago everybody was telling us he was great. Harvey Barnes when he comes on, brilliant. Why don't we start him? Jacob Murphy. What a revelation he's been since he got back in the Toon. And now we've decided he's actually probably not quite the level, even though it is a bit... Newcastle supporters do flip-flop quite a bit, and we're guilty of it too.
To be fair, that does show the contrast, though, in the performances, particularly away in the league and at home against some of the teams in the Champions League. Is it too harsh to say, Jack, that some of the teams they have played recently in the Champions League are just not of the level of even some of those mid-table sides or lower in the table sides that they've played in the Premier League?
I don't think that's harsh at all. Benfica are second bottom. They haven't won a game. They've lost every game, Benfica, so they're obviously not very good. Bilbao were without their 2 best players, in the Williams brothers. They weren't available, and also Sunset wasn't available either. He's a really highly rated attacking midfielder. So Bilbao were without some key players. And I thought Bilbao actually played pretty well. They caused us some problems. They knocked the ball around nicely, but ultimately Newcastle did just about enough. Equally, you can only beat who's in front of you, and it's actually 6 wins out of 9, but it does show the strength and depth of the Premier League, really. The fact that you have these teams like Brentford, although West Ham obviously was a weird one because they lost every single home game, and then you go there and you rock up and you turn in that performance. That's extremely disappointing. But I think that overall, probably at the level that we have played, some of these teams probably aren't actually at that Premier League level. And I think that just shows you the strength of the Premier League these days.
We talked about some of the defensive problems, especially, the issue with Burnett left back, which hopefully is going to be, solved soon with Lewis Hall coming back in. But throughout the season away from home, Newcastle haven't been great going forward. They've only scored 3 goals on the road so far. And it's something that Howe highlighted. And one name, of course, that was brought up was Nick Woltemade. Now, firstly, I think it's nonsense to blame Woltemade for the lack of goals, because I think the service to him has been so poor. But you should pick out that he's only had 4 shots away from home, and they actually all came against Brighton. And I actually think that highlights the lack of service more than it does that Woltemade is not getting involved in the game enough, because he is dropping deep and trying to make things happen.
But this is the flip-flopping I'm talking about. We were praising him 2 weeks ago. Lots of fans were praising him 2 weeks ago. When we had the 3 home games in a row, everybody was delirious about him. Not just goals, but flicks and tricks as well. But now suddenly it's, is he really up to it?
No, but I wouldn't blame him, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Okay, but we've just said, or I've just said, we've got great wingers. So if we've got great wingers, they're presumably providing some sort of service to him, because everybody thinks our wide men are really good, don't they?
Yeah.
No, I don't think
some of them. I think Gordon's been in shocking form, to be fair, and Alanga's not, I suppose, exactly hit on yet.
So we discussed Alanga in the last show as well, and 55 million, and I do seem to remember you saying he would come good. And
No, he will come good. He will come good.
When's that going to be then?
Well, you have got to give him a little bit of time to adapt into the team.
Well, so ultimately, the
same. No, Woltemade is exactly the same. He needs time to adapt in the team.
How long do they all need? What? How long?
We're
talking about Sunderland.
No.
14 new players. It took them half a game to adapt,
I suppose, but I think Woltemade has adapted. I think that my thing with him lately was I think he's just looked a bit tired, because last season was his first real full season in the Bundesliga, and he didn't even start until the second half of that campaign. So he's never played this many games consecutively. And the reason he had to play them is because Asuli's injured and Viss is injured. So there was actually no other option.
Shaun adapted.
Howe has adapted.
Shaun has adapted, yeah, but at the same time, sure. At the same time, let's not forget, Lewis Hall took a long time to adapt.
Yeah.
Anthony Gordon took a long time to adapt at Newcastle. Even Sandro Tonali, before his ban, didn't look the same player that he is now. Sometimes with Eddie Howe, it takes them a while to adapt. And I think I'm quite surprised at how quickly he was thrusting Elanga into the team, because it's not very Howe-like to do that. Usually gives them a bit of time, and actually could have been playing Jacob Murphy, who showed such good form last season.
I'm lost. Has Gordon adapted or not adapted?
Gordon has.
But then he hasn't.
Gordon is at the moment out of form for whatever reason. And he's been out of form for a while as well. Like, I think if we're fair, if you go back to the start of last season, there was obviously all the rumours about Liverpool, and he came back nowhere near the same player. He then signed his new deal, and he had about 3 months where he played massive roles in, obviously, Newcastle making the Carabao Cup final with 2 goals against Arsenal. He scored or assisted in most Premier League games. I remember against Villa, he was brilliant. Tottenham, he was brilliant. And then he got sent off against Brighton. That obviously affected him or whatever. He comes back. Howe tries to squeeze him at the team. I think we even changed our back 3 to try and get Barnes, Murphy and Gordon into the team. It just didn't work. He wasn't at the same level. And then this season, apart from Benfica
where he was consistent from
where
start to finish.
Benfica and Union, where he got a couple of goals, and then he also scored against Barcelona, but he should have scored more against Barcelona. I don't think he's been at it in the Premier League. And he even admitted himself after the Benfica game, he said, I get up for these big Champions League games. He said it. So I was like, well, okay, that's great, but you need to get up for the Premier League games. If he wants to start for England at the World Cup next year, we need a lot more from Anthony Gordon. Because at the moment, I'll be starting Harvey Barnes. Because although Barnes isn't maybe as involved in the game all the time, Barnes in his last 2 games has got a goal and assist. Because he's always involved in the final third.
Yeah, but we're people are questioning Dan Burn, for instance, now. And yet it's 5 minutes ago when we're saying he scored one of the greatest headers we've ever seen.
It was.
And it was. You can't argue that he's really been really good in the opposition box. So isn't that part of his game which you might lose were you not to play him in the team, for instance?
Yeah, you might do. You might lose Burn doing that, but I think Lewis Hall would bring you more.
It wouldn't give you that.
It wouldn't give you the headers, but he'd give you more on the ball. He'd give you more creating chances. And ultimately, Newcastle's build-up play will be much better with Lewis Hall at left-back than it would be Dan Burn.
What did you make of Eddie Howe after the game, explaining why he kept Burn on the pitch? Because you alluded to it earlier, the fact that he had that penalty decision, which, let's be honest, he kind of got away with it. It could have gone either way, but he kind of got away with that. Everyone in the stadium's thinking he's in trouble here, he's getting exposed, and then it happens again. Howe said that he kept Burn on because of his height, because he was 6'7", to help them with those, set pieces that Brentford love. But Newcastle had already conceded a long throw. Do you think that was an error of judgment from Eddie Howe? And what did you think of that as an excuse, if you want?
Yeah, I didn't really get the excuse because he's taken our long throws. Like, if you're that interested in him being in the box for his height and stuff, you'd have someone else taking the long throw and have Burn in the area. I just felt that it was a case of Howe wanting to protect his player, which is absolutely fair enough. And what I will say is, I love Dan Burn. What Dan Burn's done has been incredible. I think when we signed him, I don't think anyone imagined he'd still probably be in the team, to be fair. But he is, because he's done so well. But the issue is that if you are trying to change the style, which it seems like we're blatantly are because we're running less, then he maybe has to come out of the team because he doesn't offer enough on the ball anymore, and that's just what it is.
You know, when he made his changes at half-time against West Ham, and Gordon was one of them who came off, and after the game, he had a chance to say that Gordon was injured. Yeah. He didn't say it. He said, I could have taken anybody off at half-time, and then it later transpired that Gordon might have been injured, but he didn't give him that get-out. I was slightly puzzled by that, because it would have been very easy for him to say that and almost let him off the hook, and he didn't.
Yeah. And actually, against Athletic Club, he didn't look right from the start. It wasn't just that he was giving away. He looked injured and eventually went down, I think, in the 41st minute.
It was when he scarred that volley.
Yeah, and ends up going off, and he's not meeting up with England either. But it's a good point, that, Shaun, that he could have used that almost as an out for Gordon and his performance. And he chose actually to criticise the players. Now, earlier, you brought up goalkeepers, Shaun, which I think is a really interesting debate. This Nick Pope has got 8 clean sheets in 15 games so far this season, but those performances away from home, again, West Ham and Brentford, he went off I think with a bit of concussion in the Brentford game just before the penalty was taken. But would you like to see a change in goal now? Would you like to see Ramsdale come in?
Look, we've debated about how we think Pope is brilliant at it's ridiculous, isn't it? Shot stop. That's what a goalkeeper's supposed to do.
Unfortunately, not a modern day
He
goalkeeper.
is really good at that. You can't dispute it. But we know Ramsdale's better than his feet, even though he wasn't as good as Raya at Arsenal, which is why he left Arsenal. But he's better than Pope. But he's being exposed slightly with those long throws, those balls into the 6-yard box.
Yeah.
I mean, the flap at the weekend was a real flap. I'm trying to remember the one where he was a bit unfairly treated. He punched quite far out, but it was straight down the centre of the box. He looks a little short of confidence, but I feel we've been here before with him. I mean,
I think since he injured his shoulder, he hasn't quite looked the same.
Not been the same.
Yeah. And I think that's probably in his head. And I wonder how Ramsdale said. You know what's quite interesting? There was Tim Krul was on Drive recently. This was before those 2 games. And he actually said something about the fact that Ramsdale will be sitting on that bench, waiting for a moment, waiting for, not wanting it to happen. Of course, he's playing for Newcastle, but as that sub-keeper, he'll be wanting that chance to come in
when you sign somebody like Ramsdale, who is an England goalkeeper, you know that he's going to get a chance at some point.
Yes.
He's not there as a reserve goalkeeper. He's there to properly challenge, and he's waiting for his chance. He knows it's going to take a little while. He knows it could take to Christmas, but he knew when he came on, this is my moment to grab the number 1 jersey.
Yeah, it's a shame he didn't save the penalty. That would have been brilliant.
He has got a chance now to make himself number 1.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's time for Ramsdale to come in. And again, it's nothing to do with necessarily Pope's contributions to Newcastle. £10 million got to be one of our best ever signings. Realistically, what he's delivered is absolutely out of this world. But against West Ham, really poor for the Paquetá goal. He's 6'6". I mean, what is he doing on the long throw? That either stay on your line, let the defenders deal with it, or you come out and clean everyone out. And I just think that. And then the issue, and the main issue with Pope is the fact that when he's kicking the ball, it usually just goes out of play, or he can kick it long. You can't really play it short. And again, going back to this thing I was on about with the style change, if we are going to do that, it probably is time for Ramsdale to get a go, and Newcastle can try and build from the back properly rather than panic clearances up the pitch to no one. So I think it's time for Ramsdale.
Let's say Pope is fit, though, for Manchester City. Let's say that both goalkeepers are able to play in goal. It's not what you would do, Jack. What do you think Eddie Howe will do? Because he is quite loyal to Nick Pope.
He's loyal to a lot of players, and I totally, one thing I would say is I totally understand that loyalty. These players have not let him down. In the time that they've come into the team, they have not let him down. Newcastle have finished no lower than 7th in a full season under Eddie Howe. So he has every right to trust these players. But at some point, you have got to see that this loyalty to them is starting to cost us points. And I think Pope needs to come out of the team, and Ramsdale needs to come into the team. But equally, Howe will probably pick Pope.
I think he'll pick Ramsdale.
Do you?
Oh,
I think he's seen it.
you think he's seen the light?
Change. I also feel I watched Ramsdale quite a bit at Arsenal, and obviously we've seen Pope quite a lot at Newcastle. Ramsdale is a bit of a talker, bit of a shouter, bit of a commander of defence. Looks like he's controlling the defence. Pope's pretty quiet.
He is, yeah, he's quite quiet.
He's big, and you feel he can be commanding at times, but he doesn't really say much to his defence. You don't feel like he's marshalling them. Ramsdale definitely does that, or tries to do that. So maybe it's time to think, we need a bit of authority in the area, especially if, as we've said, the defence has been struggling just a little bit. But is the defence struggling because of what's going on behind them? And what's going on in coaching? So we've got a lot of long throws held in the area. Who is saying, as you just said, Nick, either stay on your line or come out and clatter them?
Yeah.
He's sort of halfway house.
Yeah, and that's hurting Newcastle.
Absolutely.
And it hurt them against Brentford.
Because that's why Botman made the mistake, I think, because he sort of was aware Pope was behind him, but I either want to see Pope climbing over the top of him or not see him in his perversion at all, and then he ends up flicking it on and Shaun scores, doesn't he? So,
we should talk about Eddie Howe, because it was 4 years in charge for him this week, just before that Brentford game. Some interesting comments from Jamie Carragher, who actually feels that Newcastle at the moment have let Eddie Howe down. He was talking about the frustrating summer window, the fact that some of those executive positions have been changing so much, particularly sporting director. You've had Dan Ashworth, who went off to Manchester United, Paul Mitchell as well. Now got a new one in Ross Wilson. Do you go along with what Carragher's said there? Do you feel that Newcastle as a club have let Eddie Howe down, as he says?
Not overly, but maybe he's right. He could do with a bit of help. I think the summer did blindside him a little bit. It meant he didn't get much of a break, and he had to do a lot of the stuff himself. But I hesitate to say in the old days that wouldn't have mattered, would it? I mean, if you said that to Alex Ferguson, if he'd been hit hard by a sporting director, I haven't gone, he gone, who? What? It just so.
And here's a set piece coach, Sir Alex.
What?
I do understand what you're saying, Ollie, but I think even Eddie might say that's a bit of an excuse.
Yeah.
Do you go along with that, Jack?
Yeah, I think that Howe's actually, he's dealt with it all extremely well. I mean, he had a guy had pneumonia earlier this year and then came back from that and got Newcastle into the Champions League, and then basically was the de facto sporting director this summer because we didn't have anyone in. Paul Mitchell proved to be a pretty shambolic appointment in my view. You know, the Isak thing, the fact that he came out and just slated all of the recruitment beforehand when all of those players have done well. So I thought that was a mess of an appointment anyway. Darren Hale's really unfortunate situation. You know, we obviously wish him the best. I thought he did really well as a CEO, Darren Hale. And the fact he stayed on as well, by the way, when the club could have easily found him a replacement a lot earlier, but he just stayed on just purely to do his role. So I think Howe would probably also go along with that and say, that's just an excuse. And I don't think he would agree with it.
Shaun, I don't know if you were listening to talkSPORT Breakfast after the Brentford game. There were, of course, a few Newcastle fans calling for Eddie Howe to go. I mean, for me, that's just, you can't. He has so much credit in the bank for what he's achieved, and he's also proven before that he can fix it when it has been going wrong. We've already talked about the fact that he shifted Tonali to that position. Newcastle won a 9-game winning run. You surely have to give him at least the chance to turn this around. And actually, yes, it's bad in the league. You have to accept that. Is it a crisis? They're 6th in the Champions League and they're in the quarterfinals of the Cup. I don't even think it's at that level yet.
No, I don't think so. And I don't feel it's the majority of Newcastle fans.
No, neither.
Not at all.
But had we not won the Carabao Cup, just say we'd lost that. You see, that's given us such a feel-good factor. He's almost earned himself a half-season honeymoon period, I feel, winning the Carabao Cup. I always say I would swap that for happily be relegated. I mean, that genuinely would. So he bought himself some time and some goodwill with that.
Yeah.
But I suppose there does come a point where you go, hang on, this is not very good. And personally, it's probably going to go to the Derby game. It is. I know I said forget about that.
But given the context of it as well, and especially the fact that it is at the Stadium of Light too.
Well, I remember thinking the last one was really important because if you remember, Newcastle at that point had, I think, about 15 fit players and lost something like 7 out of 8 games or something going into that game in the FA Cup. And Howe picked his full strength team. Yeah. He was like, I need to win this. And if you remember, Joe Linton came off as soon as we went 2-0 up. He came off and he didn't play again until the end of the season because he wasn't fully fit at all. So Howe knew how important that game was, and in the end, you know, that eased any sort of tension around his job or whatever. This Derby game is massive, and Newcastle's away form makes you extremely worried about it, and Sunderland's home form makes you extremely worried about it as well.
There are some games between now and then, to
of course
be fair.
There are.
And they've still got to go to Everton away. There's a few games in the Champions League too. So, you know, Howe also after the Brentford game did actually talk about maybe a bit of a reset, especially away from home with the way that Newcastle tactically set up. So let's hope they do it in time ahead of that game for sure. I wanted to ask you guys as well about some comments Sandro Tonali made. This was after the Champions League game. He was asked about his future. He said, it's a tough question because in football you have to think year for year. Don't want to say I'm going to be here for 10 years or so. But at the moment he is happy there and he's not thinking anything about any other team. Jack, how did you react to those comments?
I had no problem with it. You know, genuinely, I thought that he was being honest. He was asked a question. He asked it. He answered it exactly how he thought he should have done. And I don't think Newcastle fans should be worried about that, to be honest, because no.
You're naive as hell.
No.
You really are.
No. Just because I get it. Like, as a football player, you have got to see how things are going, how things are progressing. Like, look, if Newcastle don't get into Europe even this sort of next season, then of course a player as good as Sandro Tonali is probably going to want to maybe move on.
Why did he not?
Equally,
sorry. Why did he not answer that? This club was extremely loyal to me when I was suspended for my betting issue. The fans were great with me. They sing my name. I felt the love of this place, why on earth would I want to leave this club? No.
Yeah.
Why do we say that then?
But he's probably
why
not.
not?
Telling
But
the
do
truth.
you know what? One of the things is Isak's gone. He's seen that happen and think, well, if he can go, anybody.
He did mention Ollie. He did mention Isak.
He did,
didn't
yeah,
he?
he did.
He did mention Isak. And he said it was a difficult summer with Isak.
Is he trying not to overpromise? Is the only reason I can say why he's because if he does say that, Shaun, then every Newcastle fan, when eventually if he did decide to leave, is then going to go, "But you said that."
Because I remember
you were going to stay forever.
Because I remember the Isak thing immediately after won the Carabao Cup. He went over to Sweden for national duty, and he basically said, really happy here, loves it here, it's going to stay for however long. So I think he's probably just not overpromising.
No, I remember him being interviewed when people kept asking, "Are you going to sign a new contract?" He never ever said yes.
There was that when Shearer said he's going to sign a new deal, and he just went,
"Hey, well, we'll see. We're talking." And all that. He never said he was going to sign it.
Do you think then, Shaun, there's an inevitability to Tonali
No,
going?
not an inevitability, but I think he's throwing it out there that it's a possibility.
Yeah.
But I think he should show a bit more gratitude for the way he's been treated at Newcastle, which is very, very well.
Yeah, should he show more gratitude, Jack?
I think
you said you were comfortable with the answer.
I was comfortable with the answer because I think that he's shown plenty of gratitude already. In basically any other interview that Tonali's done, there was a big one on the beach, Tynemouth Beach, with Keith Downey, Sky Sports, where he basically talked about how much he loves Newcastle and appreciates the fans and everything. So I think he's already done that. I don't think you need to do that every single interview. I think he was asked a question about his future and he answered it how he thought. It was honest.
Shaun, I'm going to ask you this question. Tonali, is he the best midfielder you've ever seen play for your club?
No.
Is he not?
No, I mean,
Well,
hey,
who is it then?
real veterans will go back and say Tony Green, and he only played about 37 games, and I realise you two won't remember him playing. But his career was stifled by injury, and he was one of the great players in not necessarily a very good team.
See, this is why I came to Shaun first.
Hang on. Gaza, are you going to tell me Tonali was a better player than Gaza? Come off it. No, he wasn't.
Good shout.
Yeah.
Well, really, that's
But
just
it's
two
slightly
off the top of my
different
head. No, well,
position.
yeah, but you
Slightly.
just said he's the best midfield player I've ever seen at Newcastle. No. Sorry.
Yeah. Jack?
Jack's
got to say
yes. He's been watching him for about 10 years.
Well, considering before that, I was probably Kabay.
Yeah, Danny Guthrie.
Yeah,
maybe.
Danny Guthrie, yeah. Joey Barn.
But for you, Jack?
Yeah, he probably is, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think obviously Guimaraes is also up there as well, but I think Tonali's
So West, where are we in the league? 14th, and we're picking two of our midfield.
We are, yeah.
That's the best play. So your all-time Newcastle United would have them two in it.
That we've seen.
That I've seen, yeah.
Rob Lee, players
Rob
like
Lee.
that. Rob Lee,
Lee
yeah,
gets
he's another one, yeah.
No,
We
I
might
think
throw
he's-
him in
I
there.
really see him.
Seriously?
Yeah, but that's also the team
Yeah.
that's got in the Champions League twice and won a cup.
Yeah,
To be fair, they're 14th at the moment.
They are
It's early in
legends.
the season, isn't it?
this team is legends.
You cannot say from this team that two of those players are going to be all-time greatest Newcastle United side. I don't think so.
I don't know.
I think they are.
You've got to do it for a
Well,
bit
yeah, but
longer.
look what they've
You've got to do it
achieved.
for a bit longer.
Look what they've achieved.
I think
though.
Fabian Schär's in it.
No,
Centre-back,
really?
for me. He was the best centre I've seen.
There's a man over there who lifted the Affairs Cup.
No, I understand.
Great
but
centre-back.
I've got to go for what I've seen, haven't I? I've got to go for what I've seen.
That's very true. Colaccini.
Colaccini, I love Colaccini, but yeah.
Well, how many can you put in your
No,
all-time great team? I mean,
I'd probably have Colaccini.
genuinely.
I'd have Colaccini and Schär, I think.
Oh, I
to be
love
honest.
it. Talking of the kind of contract talks, though, because obviously with Tonali, it was kind of revealed that he'd sorted all this whilst that betting ban was going on. At the moment, we believe the club is in talks with Sven Botman over a new contract. That will be a good one to get sorted. What else do you feel is in Ross Wilson's in tray, Jack, as the sporting director?
I'd like to see Tino Livramento get a new deal because I rate Livramento so highly. I think wherever he's playing, left back, right back, whatever, he delivers so much off the ball. First of all, I mean, the only player I think beat him one-on-one is Antoine Semenyo, and Semenyo, well, he could beat anyone one-on-one, so I think that's fair enough. I think Livramento defensively, you know, when you watch a winger go up against him, I'm always kind of like, yeah, fine, no worries, he'll deal with them. Left back, right back, whatever. And then I thought in the last in 2025, I think he's added loads to his attacking game as well. Maybe not necessarily crossing, apart from he did put the cross in for the winning goal in the Carabao Cup final, of course. But not necessarily crossing, but I think the way he creates chances through his passing, his dribbling has massively improved. And I just think he's such a unique player, and he's so young as well still. And, he could easily be England's right back for a long, long time. So I felt Newcastle need to get him tied down. And to be honest, Tonali, I know he's signed a new deal as such, but I think if Newcastle want to realistically keep him, I think it's time to give him a contract that befits his wage. Befits his wage. I think give him one that befits his wage. So he should be one of the top, the top earner at the club, I think.
Do you think that's what he was playing for then? A better deal?
Well, I think I wouldn't be surprised if it's part of it, because look, when he signed that contract, what I will say is that contract, it was a massive risk for Newcastle because he was banned. He could have come back. He could have come back being absolutely terrible, but he's obviously been elite. So I think that was a risk for both parties. But I think now he's proven, and Newcastle have proven to him as well, that I think it's worth him going up to being the highest earner at the club.
If we part what's in the sporting director's intro, what about the club itself, Shaun? Because there does seem to be some lingering questions, not least the stadium as well, which we'll definitely do a deep dive on one of our future episodes. But what are you kind of making of that situation? Because there's been, it just feels like whispers for a long time as to whether Newcastle will stay at St James's Park and that will get renovated, or they'll move away and build somewhere new.
I don't think it's a priority for Saudi investment fund anymore. I think it's just part of their portfolio. It's not a priority to them. It's something they have. This is why I worry about moving the stadium, because they could move it. It could turn out to be a disaster. And we'll look back and think, well, we didn't really need to move to St James's Park. People go, oh, yeah, but we need another 10,000, 15,000 capacity. And you think it's going to be like that forever. I don't want to be a doom and gloom merchant, but I have been there when there's been 15,000 in the crowd and 20,000 crowds and all of that. Yeah. And believe me, there's nothing worse than a half-empty stadium or a big stadium where fans are dissatisfied, as West Ham fans will tell you, for instance. Yeah. And look, you watch if Tottenham dipped. Brilliant stadium they have, but when that's half full, that's another prospect altogether. 55,000 full or nearly full is a good atmosphere. It's a good, strong place. Everybody, opposition teams tell you that's one of the biggest atmospheres that they'll ever get. Yeah. You don't necessarily get that when you get up to 65 or 70,000.
Yeah. What in particular makes you think that Newcastle aren't a priority then for Saudi at the moment?
Just think they dip their hands into a lot of things, golf, the boxing is a huge priority.
How worried should supporters be about that, do you think?
I think it is a concern because, let's be honest, when they came in, we thought, brilliant, hey, we're going to rule the world, and it's not worked out like that. And you have to sell people like Elliot Anderson, and they realised something they probably didn't at the time, that there are constraints on your spending. Rules. You can't just throw loads of money at it. But actually, weirdly, some of the things you can throw money at, which are training grounds and stuff like that, they haven't really gone all out to build a brand new training ground. Well, why not? You're pretty much free to do that.
Yeah.
And they haven't done it. So I think I'll not say they're bored with it, but it's not top of the list.
Do you think they're bored with Newcastle?
I've seen that suggestion, but I just think, because again, what Shaun was saying, they've just got so much. And I think, to be honest, like a lot of the issues that Newcastle have had maybe about getting infrastructure moving is the fact there's been so many off-field changes, with Amanda Staveley going, Mia Dye going, and then no CEO, no sporting director. So I feel like now we've got David Hopkinson in as CEO. I feel like already we've seen a change. Pete Silverson's gone. As commercial officer, he's gone, and you could argue how well he did or how not how well he did. So clearly he's decided that needs to be a change. So I think once now you see all this coming together, I feel like we will start to see some movement on that sort of thing. Mainly because I think it's been in the pipeline, and I think there's the way the PIF seem to work with it is that they pick who they want to have in charge, and then they just let them go on with it. And you need this money, okay, fine, we'll sort it. But at the moment, there hasn't been anyone actually sort it all out. I think once this is all now finalised, we'll be all right.
Nobody in Saudi talks about Newcastle United. You never see them quoted on "this is our club" or "this is a club we like Eddie Howe" or "we don't like Eddie Howe" or anything. Nobody ever gets involved. If you contrast that with boxing, with Turkey Al-Sheikh talking all the time in documentaries and all that, now he wants to make boxing great. I mean, even you look how they've latched on to snooker even.
Yeah,
They're big things for them. The Six Kings tennis tournament.
Yeah.
big broadcasting things for them. Why do we think that Newcastle United figures top of their list when they're doing all this other stuff?
Yeah. No, I totally
F1,
agree.
another one.
Yeah.
Loads, did you say?
No,
Golf as well.
I think it's one of those things where like Newcastle fans probably did believe at the time that we were going to be the priority. I think now you'd be pretty naive to believe that we are the priority, and that's fine. It's not an issue. You know, Newcastle still become an extremely successful football club, and everything's been good so far. But you know, there's no way we're the priority, and it's not an issue.
Shaun, it's also been, and we've alluded to it, you mentioned obviously Silverstone leaving the club as well, the commercial director. It has been quite hectic at executive level over the last couple of seasons. Do you think that, especially above board, you know, Newcastle just need a period of stability, essentially, where a few of those executive directors stay
for a little bit of time,
stay in post?
But you can't say it's unstable on the pitch, if you like. Why do we? I don't.
Was the summer stable though?
No, it probably wasn't. I would agree with you, but I don't feel like it's a place that's falling apart. I think it's a place that's just sort of jogging along, really, which in some ways is stable because it's neither up there nor down there. It's just trogging along. As I say, Eddie Howe won a lot of brownie points by winning the Carabao Cup. We are still in the league, the Carabao Cup. We could do that again. It's possible. Yeah. We're doing okay in the Champions League. Every chance we're going to qualify for that. Okay, but the Premier League's not going so well. I'll live with it for a while, personally. I can cope.
Yeah, I was going to actually ask you that, Jack, because Newcastle are doing well, obviously, in the Champions League. They're in the quarterfinals of the Cup. As a fan, would you be, you know, content, let's say, if Newcastle don't maybe not finish somewhere like 11th or 12th, but if they carry on doing well in those competitions, like Shaun, are you happy to kind of take a few bad games in the league as long as they're kind of pushing on in those other two competitions?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I saw some people saying that Bilbao wasn't a priority in the week. I was like, what? Like, this Champions League was what we wanted to play in. Why wouldn't it be? This is what it's about. These Champions League nights. Yeah, fair enough. It's not Barcelona at home, but it's still a Champions League night at St James's Park. So, yeah, that's got to be something you've got to enjoy. And I feel like you've got to really appreciate those moments and take them in and really understand them. And we've not had these for a long time, and it's nice to have them back. Yes, obviously the league form needs to improve, and I'm sure it will. I'm not worried, because I think that Eddie Howe has more than enough credit in the bank and has proven time and time again that when there are problems, he adapts to them and solves them. So I think if Newcastle can keep progressing in the Cups, that'd be brilliant.
Obviously, the argument back, though, is that the league is your bread and butter, and it's a way to qualify for the Champions League that we've just been talking about. I mean, the only other way they can do it is by winning the Champions League. Would be amazing. If a team ever won the Champions League and been relegated, I don't know. But on a serious note, it's very important that they do qualify for the Champions League each season.
But if you were to take, look, we're going to win the Carabao Cup again, just say, and we had a great time out. It won't be as exciting as winning it the last time, but if we did, and
just imagine Shaun that ice is rubbish.
We had a great
space. He's already thinking about winning it again.
Well, Fulham, I mean, you feel like that's a one in the bank, don't you?
Hopefully.
Champions League, I'm optimistic we'll qualify, but we might have a good run in that. Would you really be concerned if we won the Carabao Cup and we had a great run in the Champions League and we finished 12th? Would you honestly?
We'd still have European football as well. It wouldn't be the Champions League, but if you win the Cup, you get the Conference League.
Sometimes if you have a season which isn't quite as good as the season before, knowing that we haven't really been able to build on what we had last season because we had to sell. Who was our best striker?
Bleep his name out.
Yeah. We're not going to say his name. He was sharply named.
We did, and it did cause instability for a while. Yeah. And I don't get hung up so much on all the league form. I like to look at the other things as well.
I totally agree. I think that's the stuff that... the problem, I think, is that on fans, all football fans, have almost been kind of brainwashed into thinking that, like, just because you win more money from the Premier League, that's kind of what it's about. But actually winning something... and winning a trophy that, as Newcastle proved last season, as Crystal Palace proved last season, as Tottenham proved last season, that's actually what it's about for all of these clubs. And any club who's in any competition, that's not the Premier League, because only a certain amount of clubs are going to win the Premier League. Newcastle are not going to win the Premier League, but you know they can win the Carabao Cup, they can win the FA Cup, and they can do really well in the Champions League, and that's fun, that's exciting. the league form will sort itself out. But
You keep
the
saying
exciting
this.
stuff.
I'm still wondering when exactly that will be.
Because at home, Newcastle have still been good at home.
Okay,
in
but
the
it's
league.
probably not going to be against Man City.
Well, that's a strange one, Man City. I mean, Newcastle have not actually beaten them under Eddie Howe, apart from in the Carabao Cup. We're not beating them in the Premier League. We had that amazing 3-3 game. That was brilliant. But apart from that, I haven't actually beaten them in the Premier League. So you got to beat them at some point. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, given the way this season has gone, it would be so unsurprising if they won that and then lost 3-0. But we will see. I mean, to be fair, just very quickly going back to what is coming next for Newcastle. The away games that we've kind of mentioned already it's Everton, then it's Sunderland, then it's Manchester United, then it's Burnley just before New Year. So that is 3 really difficult away games to try and fix the form.
Marseille,
of course,
which really is
Leverkusen
for all sorts of reasons.
I know,
Their fans.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, boys, I wanted to end on a positive note as well, because I'm not sure if you've seen, but the ex-Newcastle striker Papi Cisse has been
featuring that.
an amazing time in Sunday League. He's playing for Wythenshawe Vets the other day.
Danny Drinkwater, Stephen Ireland.
Danny
as well.
Drinkwater, the former Newcastle
Can you imagine
midfielder.
rocking up hungover, right? Cisse, Drinkwater, Ireland.
Please get me off
my
right now.
hamstring's gone.
Yeah, Cisse scored 6 goals in their last game against Collegiate Old Boys. Thought it was a nice way to chat about his time at Newcastle. Obviously, he's probably in Jack's all-time 11.
It will be, obviously. Well, the goal would certainly be in my top 5 of all time. It has to bang in line with the goal against Chelsea. I was sat in the press box, picked it up on the touchline, and as he hit it, we all looked and thought, hey, that might go in that. And honestly, that's what it is. Definitely top 5 goals I've ever seen anywhere covering football.
Yeah. Is that the best goal you've ever seen live, Shaun? Because you've covered so many games with your job.
Easy.
Up there.
It's up there.
It's so unique, isn't it?
Oh, it absolutely.
Yeah.
You really don't see
his first one in that game was unbelievable as well, by the way.
It's the best.
On, played it into him. He flicks it with his right foot, and then as it's dropping to him on his left foot, he volleys it in. It was like playing in the park.
You're gonna probably hate this, but I think it's probably Thierry Henry against Manchester United at Highbury. Flicks it up on the edge of the area and turns and volleys. That's possibly. Yeah. But hey,
save that for Inside Gooners.
Yeah.
There are people who think Cisse was a bit lucky with that and maybe wasn't trying it. But if it wasn't trying it, what was he trying? It wasn't across to the far post. It was something. It was something unique.
Yeah.
I've not seen another goal like it since.
I don't think. And that was just a striker who had total belief in himself, and he could believe he believed he could score from anywhere.
Gents, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time.